everyone, my name is HoodatQueen94. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a huge New Orleans Saints fan, as well as being a huge fan of the NFL. And Week 16 is coming on, if you can believe it or not, which means there are only a few games left in the NFL season. And it was an interesting week, to say the least. We had a great portion of the games played on Saturday, and then 3 played on Sunday. So I actually did catch the Broncos game. And I thought it was really interesting how Nickelodeon decided. Well, I know that Nickelodeon has played a few games on their network. I know that they played the Saints game against the Bears in the playoffs a few years ago. I didn't catch that game, but I thought it was a really great idea for them to play it this year, and probably what was considered a consolation game, in my honest opinion. I mean, neither of these teams are going to do anything, so they're not playing for anything. And I gotta tell you, I grew up a Nick kid. I'm a huge fan of SpongeBob. Yes, I just said that. And it's kind of amazing that Patrick Star knows his football. He's pretty smart about that. But either way, we've got a game to talk about, which was not on Nick. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's talk about the Browns at the Saints. Alright. My bad. Okay. So in the first quarter, Browns get the ball to start and get a quick 3 and out. At 12:07, Dalton fumbles the snap and Saints are forced to punt. A good punt by the Browns puts the Saints at the 1. An intentional grounding penalty puts the Saints out of field goal range and forces them to punt with 5:10. The ball is deflected and intercepted by Delpit of the Browns for 40 yards with 2:44. Saints and Browns are tied 0-0 to end the first quarter. Nothing interesting there. Second quarter. Watson gets the run and touchdown for 12 yards to start the second quarter to make it a 7-0 game with 14:55. Watson hits Cooper for 12 yards with 8 minutes to go. Browns go for it on 4th and 5 with 5:46, and it's caught by Cooper for 21 yards to pick up the first to get into the red zone. Cooper drops a touchdown in the end zone on 3rd and goal, forcing York to kick a 30-yard field goal with 4:11 to make it a 10-0 game. A few runs by Hill plus a penalty puts the Saints in Browns territory. Saints on the move in the red zone with 41 seconds to go. Saints then lets out to kick a 23-yarder with 3 seconds to end the half. Browns lead Saints 10-3. Third quarter. Saints get the ball to start. Kamara picks up a first for 14 yards. Dalton throws to Shaheed to move the chains to get into field goal range with 11:38. Taysom Hill gets an 8-yard touchdown with 9:40 to make it a 10-10 game. Saints force the Browns to punt at 6:29. Watson's pass is deflected and intercepted by Sorensen for a 36-yard return with 2:55 left in the quarter. Kamara gets a 4-yard touchdown with 55 seconds left to make it a 17-10 game. Saints lead 17-10 to end the fourth quarter. Dalton throws to Kamara, who picks up 29 yards to get close to midfield with 11:30. A drop pass by Kirkwood forces the Saints to punt with 9:57. Browns go for it on 4th and 2 and turn it over on downs with 6:55. Dalton throws again to Kirkwood and it's incomplete, forcing them to punt with 5:22. A penalty by the Saints gives the Browns a new set of downs at the 2-minute warning. Browns go downfield. Watson throws a bomb to Cooper for 33 yards to move the chains. With 51 seconds left to go, Watson completes to David Bell for 18 yards. Carl Granderson sacks Pervert with 19 seconds to go on 4th and 10. Saints beat and eliminate the Browns 17-10. Okay. Well, that game was not the easiest, warmest, nor prettiest to play in. But despite all odds, the Saints got it done. The Saints went up in frigid, snowy, windy weather and won back-to-back games. First time they've done it this season, I believe. Now, I thought that this would be a struggle offensively, despite being unaware of not having Jarvis or Olave playing in this game, or being that aware of what the weather was going to be like or how cold it was going to be. The passing game overall looked sloppy. Dalton's numbers weren't good, but they were kind of what you would expect for a guy who was taken out of the game, with the exception of some necessary passing plays to keep a driver 2 alive. That's kind of what we threw him out there for anyway. Overall, Dalton had 92 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception off a depleted pass. The receivers, didn't have a great day either. Shaheed led in receiving with 41 yards, followed by Kamara's 34 yards receiving. Keith Kirkwood looked horrible, not being able to make any decent, not being able to make the catch on some decent passes. But of course, the conditions didn't exactly make it easy for him to make those catches anyway. And it was pretty much impossible for either team to really get, the passing game going anyway. But I mean, and not to mention the fact that, the Saints were thin anyway in the receiving corps coming into the game. I do think it was smart and a necessary move for DA to pull the plug when he did. And the Saints are very fortunate. They are super fortunate in having a guy like Taysom. I know I rave about this guy 24/7, but listen, he has been super consistent for us for years. So, and we are very, very lucky to have a guy like Taysom, in my honest opinion. Because not many teams can use their backup quarterback / tight end and use them to save the day. And, obviously, as I mentioned, it wasn't working in the passing game anyway, so bring in Taysom and bring in Kamara, go run heavy, and, just run all over them. The Saints won this game on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. Kamara had 76 yards. Taysom had 56 yards rushing. So it was good to see Kamara have a better game. I know he's kind of struggled here and there this entire season. But it's good to see him have better games back to back. I do think that the Saints adjusted well and did what they needed to do, or scored what they needed to do to get this win. Now, as far as the defense goes, I think that they did do a lot better than they did last week against the Falcons, especially when it came to containing the run. They held Chubb to 92 yards, which, isn't great, but they didn't allow a running back to get a rushing touchdown. So that was, by Watson, who's not a running back. But it was much cleaner than it was last week, limited penalties. We got a takeaway on a deflected pass, which put us in a position to score. Didn't even know that we had Daniel Sorensen. So you learn something new every day. We got the sack that we needed to end the game by Granderson. See, Watson thought he was going to be the hero of this game, right? But I hate to break it to him. Sometimes you don't always get to be the hero. Life works in mysterious ways. But either way, nothing really impressive by him either. I mean, 135 yards passing, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 interception. His receivers couldn't even bail him out. With Cooper dropping 2 huge passes in the end zone, which would have resulted in touchdowns. But Cooper did have 72 yards and led in receiving. And, we are very fortunate, again, that he didn't get those touchdowns and that he had those 2 drop passes. And, as I mentioned, didn't have that much success running it. So overall, kind of just a really bizarre game. But it truly is hard to believe that a team that is so banged up like the New Orleans Saints can come into a freezing environment, mind you, face an average Browns team, be 3-point underdogs, play in an almost empty stadium, score only 17 points, and still win, and on top of it, eliminate a team from the playoffs or playoff contention. It was a solid effort by the Saints to hang on and keep their season alive for another week. So, awesome. As for the Browns, I don't know what they're going to do moving forward. And listen, as I mentioned, I don't know what they're going to do moving forward, and that's on them to make that decision. So this is not necessarily a team I'd wish well, given the circumstances. So I guess I'll leave it at that anyway, since they're not going to make the playoffs anyway, but moving on. So, Saints and Eagles. So how do I go about this? Boy, oh boy, it comes down to this now, doesn't it? The Eagles are coming off a bad loss to the Cowboys, so I can't imagine that they're pretty thrilled about that. So they haven't dropped back-to-back games. They are 13-3, so how in the world can the Saints possibly beat the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, I'm gonna take a page from DA's book and I'm gonna say it's gonna come down to mental toughness. Yeah. Now, again, I thought he did a decent job calling the game against the Browns and utilizing Taysom fairly well. So for him to make that call, I know it came in a little late, but, you know, the fact that he realized, hey, it's not working with Andy Dalton, let's go run heavy, you know, it made it a lot smoother, and I like that decision. I thought it was a necessary decision. Um, I gotta say, I think there'll probably be a fair balance between the two in this game. Probably Dalton will probably have more time, but you know, I think Dalton needs to play that Dalton knows he can play, and Dalton needs to play well. And the thing of it is that Andy Dalton can surprise a lot of people. When he's good, he's fairly good. He's not, you know, Andy Dalton does have the arm. You know, he clearly can run because he led a game in rushing, so he can run. They've allowed a few passing TDs and, you know, some yards to quarterbacks. So Andy Dalton knows what Andy Dalton needs to do, which is, you know, keep it clean, don't turn it over, don't take the sack, and throw it out when you need to throw it out, and, you know, time it as well. As I mentioned, as long as he's clean, you know, he can have a decent game. They've given up some passing yards to receivers, so if we get Olave back, that would be really, really great for us. I didn't see Jarvis Landry on the injury report, so I take it that he's probably going to play, and it would be really great to see Andy Dalton and Jarvis Landry finally get on some sort of rhythm or some sort of page. The chemistry between Johnston and Andy wasn't there last week, so if they can get back into rhythm, that would be really helpful. The run game might be a challenge for us, as they haven't given up 100 yards recently to running backs, and the Saints have struggled with that all season. But you never know. You never know what you're going to get with AK and Taysom, so we just have to take care of the football, and we can't fumble it. So we'll see what happens. On the flip side, it's hard to say because we don't know who's going to play in this game. If Hurts and Sanders miss this game, this could be a huge advantage for us. But if one or both play, we're in a heap of trouble. We faced the Eagles last year, and Hurts had 3 rushing touchdowns, and Sanders had 94. Like, they're a really great combination together. So, you know, and we know that the Saints can't contain the running quarterback. They just have never been able to. So, you know, if they do miss this game, they'll rely on Gainwell and former Saints Boston Scott, who I feel are probably less of a threat than, you know, Hurts and, you know, Sanders together. As far as the passing game goes, again, if Hurts plays, they may just rely on the run a little bit more because we know that he can run. And he's a great passing QB as well, but, you know, I just feel like they probably really rely on that more. Now, if it is Gardner Minshew, listen, he's coming off a great game against the Cowboys, 355 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And the Eagles do have stellar weapons with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, who had great performances in previous games. I believe they got Dallas Goedert back. But again, we're pretty good at containing the tight end anyway, so he's not my biggest concern here. It's probably more Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. But the Saints are a top 2 passing defense, so behind the Eagles, ironically. I don't know about May or Lattimore, but if we can hold Smith and Brown to under 100 yards receiving, that would be a big success for our defense. We've done it before. We did it against Devontae Adams, so getting a few turnovers here and there, forcing them to punt, getting sacks, same old, play smart, play clean, no stupid penalties. Same thing that I've been saying this entire time. You know, if the Saints do what they need to do and they do what they're supposed to, then this could be an upset in the making. Don't sleep on the Saints just yet. We are 7-point underdogs, so, I mean, makes sense, I'm not gonna lie. Speaking of which, I'm not gonna lie to you, Saints fans. I think that we need to brace ourselves. Excuse me. I think we need to brace ourselves. Because even if we win this game, it's not up to us. If Tampa beats Carolina, it's all over. So prepare for the worst, and if it happens, and we'll deal with it. But listen, I think that the NFC South is kind of like a Saw movie. I'm thinking it's Saw 2. It has to be because I've only seen 2 Saw movies. It feels like all 4 of us have been poisoned, right? And there's only one antidote, and only one team is going to be able to survive. And, you know, as we have learned, Atlanta has succumbed to their injuries. But the fact that the Saints have hung on this long, given how badly we've played, is kind of crazy. And if we do survive another week, it would be such a trip. But either way, I think that is all I have to say. It is a little chilly in here, so. Once again, my name is HoodatQueen94. I'm also on Twitter under the name Olave Saint Savior. But either way, yeah. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If not, that's okay, no worries. If you'd like to subscribe, I'd much appreciate that. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and go Saints. Who dat, baby? Okay, bye-bye. Oh, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Okay, bye-bye.